Welcome to this session, where we'll explore some fundamental tools in Photoshop: fill, gradient, and pattern. These tools play a major role in adding colors, depth, and textures to your designs, whether it's filling shapes with solid colors, creating smooth and dynamic gradients, or crafting custom patterns for backgrounds. You'll learn how to use these techniques effectively. By the end of this video, you'll have the skills to experiment and enhance your creative projects with confidence. Let's get started. Let's learn how to quickly fill a document or selection with color in Photoshop. Start by creating a new document. I'll choose an A4 size. To begin, unlock the background layer by clicking the small lock icon. Now look at the foreground and background colors. By default, they're black and white. You can switch them using the double arrow above. To fill the layer with the foreground color, press Option plus Delete on Mac or Alt plus Backspace on Windows. To fill with the background color, press Command plus Delete on Mac or Control plus Backspace on Windows. Next, I'll change the colors. I'll select a shade of blue for the foreground and green for the background. Using the same shortcuts, I can quickly apply these colors. Now, let's fill a specific area. I'll use the Marquee tool to draw a box. Create a new layer to keep the background intact. Then press Option plus Delete or Alt plus Backspace to fill the box with color. When you apply colors using the shortcuts we just learned, you might notice something interesting. If there's no active selection, Photoshop will fill the entire document area with the selected color. If you want to limit the fill to only the selected box, hold Shift while pressing the shortcut. For example, press Shift plus Option plus Delete on Mac or Shift plus Alt plus Backspace on Windows. Finally, if you need to change the color, just click the foreground color, choose a new shade, and apply it using the same shortcut. Practice this technique to get familiar with filling colors. In future videos, we'll explore even more ways to work with color. Keep practicing. Let's explore how to fill with gradients in Photoshop. Start by selecting the Gradient tool from the Tools panel. The shortcut is G. At the top, you'll see options like Gradient and Classic Gradient. Here, you can pick from a variety of preset gradients. There are 5 types of gradients. Linear gradient creates a straight color transition. Radial gradient creates a circular blend. Angle gradient sweeps colors around a central point. Reflected gradient mirrors the gradient on both sides. Diamond gradient creates a diamond-shaped blend. Let's start with the linear gradient. I'll use the default black and white gradient. Simply click and drag in the direction you want, top to bottom, left to right, or diagonally. To make it perfectly straight, hold down the Shift key as you drag. Now let's try the radial gradient. Select it from the top menu and drag the gradient. Gradients work by creating a smooth transition between 2 or more points. The radial gradient, for example, forms a circular effect that radiates outward from the center point. You can do the same for angle, reflected, and diamond gradients, experimenting with their effects. You can control the direction, size, and intensity of the gradient, by adjusting the starting and ending points while dragging. Dragging a short distance creates a tight, focused gradient, while dragging further spreads the transition over a larger area. If you want perfectly aligned gradients, such as straight vertical or horizontal transitions, hold the Shift key while dragging. Gradients are highly customizable. You can adjust their shape, size, and even blend multiple types together for creative effects. Once you've drawn a gradient, additional options allow for further fine-tuning, such as angle adjustments and blending. Next, let's create a custom gradient. Once you draw a gradient, you can adjust the colors from the Properties panel or by double-clicking on the gradient points. Let me explain the difference between gradient and classic gradient in the latest version of Photoshop. The gradient tool in the newest versions provides advanced customization options. When you draw a gradient, it automatically creates a masked layer. This allows you to make adjustments directly in the Properties panel or on the document itself without needing to redraw the gradient. You can fine-tune the colors, angles, and blending right from the existing gradient layer, making it much more flexible and efficient. In older versions of Photoshop, these customizable options aren't available. Once you draw a gradient, it's fixed, and any changes require you to redraw it from scratch. This is why the updated gradient functionality is a significant improvement for users who need more control and flexibility in their designs. Let's create a sunrise effect using the radial gradient. First, I'll select the radial gradient option and draw the gradient starting from the center. The default gradient appears, but we'll customize it to create the sunrise effect. To do this, I'll change the starting point color to white and the end point color to a reddish hue. Next, I'll add more colors to the gradient by hovering over the gradient string. When the mouse icon changes to a plus symbol, I'll click to add a new color point. Once the colors are added, I'll change this color to a yellowish tone to brighten the gradient. And then I'll add another shade, a soft orange, to enhance the transition and make it look more like a natural sunrise. I'll adjust the distance between them to refine the transition and size. I'll also tweak the blending adjustments to achieve a smooth and realistic sunrise effect. You can experiment further to make it more vibrant or subtle, depending on your project needs. Let's create a rainbow effect using the radial gradient and playing with opacity settings. First, I'll set up a sky background to make it more realistic. I'll go to Edit, Sky Replacement. Where multiple sky options are available, I'll select one that suits the scene. Before we start with the rainbow gradient, let me quickly explain transparent gradients. Here in the opacity control, you can adjust the transparency of any color in the gradient. For example, if I reduce the opacity of the white color from 100% to 0%, you'll notice the white area becomes completely transparent. By default, the opacity control has only 2 points, one for the starting color and one for the ending color. But if I add an extra color in the gradient, I also need to add a corresponding color point in the opacity control to adjust its transparency. Watch this. I've added red to the gradient, and now I'll add a red point in the opacity control. By reducing its opacity to 0%, the center red area becomes transparent. Using this same technique, I'll now create the rainbow gradient. First, I'll create a new layer and select the radial gradient tool. I'll drag the gradient from the center outward. To set up the rainbow effect, I'll change both ends of the gradient to white and reduce their opacity to 0. Next, I'll add color stops one by one, starting with red, then orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. To ensure smooth transparency, I'll add the same number of points in the opacity control and adjust their transparency accordingly. Once the colors are in place, I'll fine-tune the distance, size, and blending of the gradient until it looks like a natural rainbow. Finally, I'll reduce the overall layer opacity slightly so it blends nicely with the sky background. In this session, we've explored the power and versatility of gradients, a crucial design tool for adding depth, color, and smooth transitions. Gradients help create dynamic, visually appealing designs, whether you're applying them to backgrounds, objects, or text. We covered the 5 main gradient types: linear, radial, angle, reflected, and diamond. Each one brings its own unique effect. For example, linear gradients are great for creating soft transitions between 2 colors, making them perfect for backgrounds. Radial gradients help simulate light sources, such as the sun, by radiating colors outward from a central point. And don't forget about the flexibility of angle, reflected, and diamond gradients, which give you even more control to experiment with different effects and designs. We also focused on opacity control, which is a powerful feature that lets you adjust the transparency of each color in your gradient. This is particularly useful for blending your gradient into the background, creating subtle fades, or even making parts of your design look transparent, like glass or fog. By mastering opacity control, you can introduce more dimension and realism into your designs, giving them a polished, professional look. Gradients are not just about color transitions. They are also great for adding texture and depth to objects or creating visual effects like shadows, light, and reflections. With just a few adjustments, you can make flat designs come alive, whether it's by giving a button a 3D look or mimicking natural elements like water, clouds, or sunsets. The beauty of working with gradients is that they offer endless possibilities for customization. You can experiment with different colors, adjust angles, modify opacity, and layer multiple gradients to get the exact effect you're looking for. This makes gradients a must-know technique for every designer, no matter what field you're working in. So, as you practice and experiment with gradients, you'll discover how they can enhance your designs in unique ways. With these tools at your disposal, you can bring your creative visions to life. Keep experimenting and let gradients help you take your designs to the next level. Next, let's learn about pattern fill. To start, go to the Window menu and select Patterns. This opens the Patterns panel where you'll find a collection of preset patterns, like trees, grass, and water. You can use these patterns to quickly add texture or backgrounds to your design. Simply click on a pattern of your choice, and it will apply to the selected area or layer. Now, let's create a custom pattern. I'll begin by creating a square dimension document. This gives us a good starting base. I'll add a random gradient as the design for the pattern. Once ready, I'll go to the Patterns panel and click the plus icon to add a new pattern. Here, I'll give the pattern a name and click OK. That's it. Our custom pattern is now saved. To use this new pattern, I'll return to the previous document. From the Patterns panel, I select the pattern we just created. You'll notice that Photoshop automatically applies the pattern as a pattern fill layer, which is masked by default. The real power of pattern fill comes with customization. By double-clicking on the masked layer, you can access options to adjust the pattern's angle and scale. For instance, changing the angle rotates the pattern, while adjusting the scale makes the pattern larger or smaller to fit your design needs. Experiment with these controls to position the pattern exactly how you want. Whether you use built-in patterns or custom ones, Pattern Fill is a fantastic tool to enhance your designs with textures, decorative elements, or unique backgrounds. It's simple, flexible, and saves a lot of time. Now let's try creating your own patterns and applying them to your projects. Now let's create another style of pattern using an image. I'll start with a square document. Go to the File menu, select Place Linked, and add this flower image. I'll adjust its size to fit perfectly within the document by dragging the corners. Next, I'll create a new pattern just like before. Go to the Patterns panel, click the plus icon, give it a name, and click OK. That's it. The image has been turned into a new pattern. You can experiment with any images, objects, or designs to create patterns. Patterns are great for backgrounds, textures, or even creative design elements. Whether you're using photos, gradients, or shapes, the possibilities are endless. Try using different images to create patterns and see how they transform your designs. It's a simple yet powerful tool to enhance your creative projects. In this session, we explored the key tools for adding color and creativity to your designs. We started with solid color fills, learning how to apply colors quickly using shortcuts and how to control where the color is applied. Then, we moved on to gradients, where we experimented with different styles, linear, radial, angle, and more, customizing them with colors, opacity, and blending for dynamic effects. Finally, we dove into patterns, creating both preset and custom patterns, using gradients, images, and objects to add texture and depth to our designs. These tools, fill, gradient, and pattern, are essential for enhancing backgrounds, objects, and design elements in Photoshop. Practice these techniques, experiment with different combinations, and see how they can transform your projects into polished, professional designs. In the next video, we'll dive deeper into more creative possibilities. Stay tuned.